And we are in South Texas out here for some fantastic hunting, but with air guns. So it's a little different. I came to Texas with my Umarex hammer, and I'm just out to see what opportunities I might have.
From Mexico to Louisiana, the Red River down to the Laguna Madre, Texas is one big playground. Welcome to Fishing and Hunting Texas.
Well, I've got the hammer here and getting ready to go for a hunt, but I got to get this topped off. You really shouldn't hammer your air guns with air in them. So I don't have any air in this. We got to get it running. I'm going to use the ready air compressor to do that, and make sure I'm set up to 4,500 psi, and there's a digital readout, so I'm able to do that. And that way it'll shut off automatically once I get it rolling. But pretty simple. Just put the air hose onto the quick disconnect. And I've already made sure it's on safe. I got a field safety in here. Tighten the bleed screw. Actually, I'm going to get it running before I tighten it. So I got an on-off button here. So I'm going to turn this on, and then I'll tighten the bleed screw after it gets running, just to make sure it gets, that everything's flowing right. And then the pressure will start building into the hammer's tank. Yeah, it's very important to understand the gear you're using, and especially so with the hammer. It's got 3 safeties, so it's just a lot to think about. And there's a lot of air pressure involved. You've got a shot bottle that's at 3,000 psi and 7 cubic inches, and then you've got the main bottle, which is 24 cubic inches at 4,500 psi. But I've got some 320 grain slugs here, and at about, it's going to shoot at the velocity when I checked last was right around the 880 feet per second range. Let's make sure. So I got a 2-round magazine, so it's great to have a backup shot, which there's not a lot of big boy air guns that have that. The hammer is one of them, but it's a real simple operation. Now this magazine is actually acts as the chamber, so I simply take your rounds and place them into the magazine, and then whenever the gun fires, it actually dumps air behind the projectile, and then the projectile pushes from the magazine into the barrel and obviously down to the target. All right, got a target out there. Safety's off. I'm gonna hold this gun pretty good. Take our first shot. Just like anything else, it's about shot placement, and I think especially with an air rifle, because you don't get a big wound opening most of the time, so you don't always have a lot of blood trail to get that precise shot. And that's what's important with air guns, is to put that thing right in the vitals.
Flinched a little bit there. Didn't come up much. I mean, too low, too high was what I was, looking at back there. Let's shoot it again just to kind of get confirmation before.
Absolutely.
You want to change it. I mean, it's different atmosphere, different air. It just, sometimes it's, could be you.
Temperature, it could be. Absolutely could be me.
I usually blame it. I try to blame it on the gear, but it's usually me.
Yeah, so when you're on the range, a lot of guys use these big tanks and top off after every shot. This utilizes your air a lot more efficiently based on volume. Sometimes guys will tether it and just let it stay on the whole time.
All right, everybody ready?
Yep.
That's 30 quick. I'm gonna take a 40. Now I'm gonna leave it right there.
Actually, the hammer was made, we wanted a large caliber that did have a little ring to it, audibly, right? But it was made specifically to shoot big game. We wanted to be able to shoot whitetail deer, which is very commonly hunted, all the way up to Cape Buffalo, and all that has been done. We're out here this afternoon getting out on our first stand, and we're going to sit in the blind. It's really windy. If you could hear what I'm hearing, it's just tremendously windy. first set, oh man, the wind really picked up that day. After we got things sighted in, here it comes. So it started howling. It was probably 20 miles an hour. And we were facing right into it on our first set. So there was a blind sitting there, and didn't really know what to expect at this particular set. We were hoping that maybe an outdab would come through. Yeah, so we're sitting in the blind, just letting the wind hit us in the face, and we're watching some deer. We had a few doe come in over here to our left, and so just kind of watching what they're doing. They're grazing, all does, and then one came out there at the far end of where we were sitting, and then eventually a buck comes through. He's a little guy. He had a little funky set of horns, kind of like a split main beam. And he chased the doe around a little bit, but they stayed around. They kept milling around in front of us and to our left. And actually, my eye caught on a little dove that was crossing paths after the deer settled down. And as that happened, I see something move out in the distance, and it was a black and white pig. And that guy, he was just beelining, like he'd been through there before and knew where he was going. And that Kevin and I sat and we thought, we need to shoot this pig because it's a big pig and it's Texas. We really don't need him here anyway. And of course, he was just big. He was a big pig. So drew up on him, followed him around, and followed him through. I didn't think he was going to stop, but he did. He stopped, and it just presented me the best angle, just broadside, and just let it rip. And shot him right behind the shoulder, and he took off. You could hear that thwap of that slug. It's a 320 grain slug, and just thwap into the side of that pig. He takes off at a diagonal away from us. I lose him in the brush, sat there a few minutes, and then set out to see if we can find some blood. A lot of times I hear guys say, well, I didn't find my pig. That pig just didn't bleed enough, you know. But I was surprised. We got a little bitty drop of blood, probably about pea size to begin with, and then they just kept growing a little bit from there, and a little bit more, and eventually led us right to them.
Here.
Look at that.
You got your pig?
What? That's the first pig I've shot with a hammer. Man, I didn't expect to find him, to be honest with you. Wow.
That is a big pig. That is a big boar. Holy moly, look at those.
Wow.
Golly.
He wasn't having a good day. That's for sure. Woof. I didn't expect to find this pig. First, I thought I'd shot too far back. And so that was my first inclination was, well, we're not gonna find this pig. I messed up the shot. But as the blood got more and more, I thought, okay, well, maybe there's a chance. But I still had this doubt of we're not gonna find this pig. And I knew he is big, but had a big blood drop, and then I looked up and he's sitting there, laying there under a bush. and yeah, I was surprised that pig was laying there.
That is a monster.
I saw a guy go off, saw a guy get attacked once after he got a gut shot, and so I was a little nervous walking up to this one. I really just did not think we were gonna see this pig. I really didn't think so, especially not within 200 yards of where we shot the thing. And just to be able to track the blood and see that the blood splatters grew and grew and grew, man, it was exhilarating to look up and see that pig laying there when I didn't expect it to be there. Man, that's a great pig. That's a great pig. Woo, all with the hammer. Goodness gracious. So if you want to get into hunting with high pressure air guns, there's a little bit of a setup involved, meaning you need to have a source for high pressure air. In our case, I like to use the Umarex Ready Air, and it's a small compressor that takes atmospheric air and just starts pumping the air into the rifle, and it just pumps it and pumps it and pumps it until it reaches that 4,500 psi, and that has a shutoff valve, so when it reaches 4,500 it shuts itself off. So it's real handy to have a compressor with that capability. But getting that high pressure, it takes a little bit of investment, or a friend if you've got one that has one. That would be the best way. But once you've got your air into the rifle, everything else becomes just about secondhand. So you've got your air, you load your magazines. The magazine slides in from the left to the right on the hammer. There's a bolt action. You cock that bolt all the way back and you push it all the way forward. And make sure it's all the way forward. I've made the mistake of not having it all the way and not getting a good shot off of it. And then there's actually 3 safeties on the hammer. There's one up on the cheek piece on the right side. That's what we call our field safety. And so that's if you're going into the stand or climbing up into a stand. Have that in so the hammer won't move, and the bolt won't move. And it's just an extra level of safety. And then there's a magazine floor plate safety. So if the magazine's not in there, it's not supposed to fire, and then your trigger safety. So you've got 3 safeties on there to make sure that you can traverse your hunting terrain without any issues coming up. But once you've got your magazine in, you've operated your bolt, and you've pushed it off safe, you're ready to fire. And just hold on to that guy. It's not the crack of a firearm by any means. It's a pretty loud sound. But if you think about just for relationships, since if you haven't heard one in person, take a big balloon, a really big balloon that has air pressure built up into it, and then pop it, and then that boom. That's kind of what it sounds like, as opposed to the crack of a firearm.
In Texas, hunters have more options than ever when it comes to the tools they use in the field, and that includes air guns and arrow guns. But before you head out, it's important to know the rules. An air gun fires a bullet using unignited compressed gas as the propellant. An arrow gun does the same, but fires arrows or bolts. A pre-charged pneumatic system means the air or gas is supplied from a separate source before firing. And for many game animals in Texas, this is the only legal setup. You can hunt alligators, game animals, fur bearers, squirrels, and non-migratory game birds with air guns and arrow guns, except wild turkeys in the East Zone. Big game like deer, pronghorn, javelina, bighorn sheep, and turkey require a pre-charged pneumatic system. For air guns, the projectile must be at least 30 caliber, weigh at least 150 grains, and travel at a minimum of 800 feet per second, or produce 215 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. For smaller game like squirrels, pheasant, quail, and chachalaca, you can use air guns as small as .177 caliber if they reach 600 feet per second. Arrow gun bolts and arrows must meet the same standards as archery equipment. Remember, arrow guns may not be used to hunt deer or turkey during archery-only season. Air guns and arrow guns perform differently than centerfire rifles and shotguns. Success and ethical hunting depend on knowing your equipment's limits. Not all legal models perform the same in the field. Your skill level, shot distance, projectile type, and the air remaining in your tank all impact performance. While some hunters have taken big game at over 150 yards, the recommended effective range is 75 yards or less. For a quick, ethical harvest, aim for vital organs, heart and lungs, and, like archery hunting, wait about an hour before tracking your game. In Texas, hunting with air guns and arrow guns can be a rewarding challenge, but it comes with responsibility. Know the laws, know your gear, and take ethical shots. By doing so, you help ensure a clean harvest and preserve the tradition for the future.
So when it comes to hunting regulations with air rifles, especially for whitetail, we're talking about mostly the southern and southeastern states. Most of those are good, but you always want to check your regulations to make sure it's applicable, and you'll find that it's during rifle season is when you can hunt with air rifles.
You know, the vitals, if you look at an aoudad, they've got a very powerful shoulder, not only muscle, but a big bone on the front of that shoulder. And you know, if we're fortunate enough to knock one down, I'll show you, and you can hit it. I mean, you can feel that, almost like a giant fist in there. It's solid bone. And, you know, you hit it with the wrong kind of caliber bullet or the wrong arrow or whatever, you may not get enough penetration in there. I know with the hammer, we got a lot more energy getting in there. We may be able to break it down, but I like to be back from that just a little bit. Still looking at, and we'll use this deer as an example, you know, their shoulder is very powerful and very round. They're very tall and very deep animals when you look at these rams, even the oddhead ewes. And my goal is always to get something into that opposite shoulder, no matter what I'm shooting.
Today, the goal is aoudad or whitetail. Right now the rut's in, so the deer kind of, the bucks are at least chasing the opportunities. So maybe we'll see one, maybe we won't. But the goal was aoudad, and we went to a spot where it's been known that aoudad were frequenting. And I could hear the hoofs. I could hear the hoofs coming, and they were off to my left, which would have been the east, and just slowly approaching. It wasn't a fast trot, just kind of coming in slowly. I'm sure checking things out before he got up in there to do some grazing. But so a beautiful ram comes by, and I haven't seen rams, especially this close, and so wasn't too sure of his size. You know, is he the right one? Is he not the right one? I can't shoot to the east. That's not going to happen. I can't turn. So I had to wait for him to come around, and that's what he did though. He came around, got a good little while to watch him. He kind of stays over here a little bit to the left, have a tree right in front, which limits some shooting lanes. I have a little skinny lane to the left and a wider lane here to the right in front of me. So I'm watching him over here in this left lane. He mills around grazing a little bit, and he ventures over to the right, and another ram comes in, but from the other side. And I thought, he looks good. I like the curve on that horn there. And he comes in and he starts grazing, and they're fairly close to each other. So I get a better idea. Okay, the first one's the better one. And so they graze around. He actually comes back over here into this left shooting lane, but then he eventually comes back right. And I'm just trying to be patient. Just patient and quiet. And I had already gotten my gun in position after he passed by, just in case. I didn't want to spook anything. And plus we thought if other rams, you know, ewes came in perhaps, that those eyeballs might spook, and so had to be very careful with the movements and whatnot. So I got ready early and watched them, and they grazed, and then he just stayed behind this tree grazing for a little bit, and had to wait patiently. But eventually he stepped over to the right, the other one moved out of the way, and he just gave me the perfect broadside, just barely, you know, quartering away. And I knew that was the time to shoot. And just, I shot, and wow, he dropped right there, and I fell speechless. I didn't even rack another round because I didn't expect that. Didn't expect it at all.
Gave me a great shot, and it was kind of hard to pass that shot up because he just broadside a little bit quartering away, and I don't know, call it luck, but he dropped right where he was. And I thought I'd put those crosshairs right where they needed to be, but I guess I did because he went down. But I can't get over how nice this animal is. It's beautiful.
My job. And it's not just because I get to go hunt, but the people in the shooting industry, hunting and shooting industry, are absolutely amazing people. They're just down to earth. They're conservative, meaning they like to conserve the landscape and the animals, and that's what it's about. It's maintaining what God gave us. And the people I work with are just amazing people. And we're all like-minded, and that is we want everyone else to enjoy the things we enjoy and to experience the great outdoors.
To learn more about the Umarex line of air guns, check them out at umarexusa.com. And for the best selection of fishing, hunting, and outdoor gear, get on over to Bass Pro or Cabela's.com. That'll do it for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.